Karen's smug grin was wider than the plot of land she stole from me. By noon, her tacky festival was already trampling my property and my patience. My name's Jake, a quiet farmer who'd spent years tending to my family's 5 acres of rolling green hills, only to wake up one Saturday to find Karen, the neighborhood HOA tyrant, had turned it into her personal circus. She'd always been a thorn in my side, waddling around in her gaudy dresses, barking orders like she owned the whole town. But this was war. It started with a flyer slipped under my door, Karen's annual community bash food. Music. Fun. The address listed was my land, a plot I'd inherited from my grandfather, untouched by anyone but me and my old tractor. I'd never agreed to this. Karen hadn't even knocked. She'd just assumed her HOA title gave her divine right to my property. I stormed out to confront her, my boots sinking into the dew-soaked grass, only to find a full-blown festival already in swing. Tents dotted my fields. Food trucks blocked my driveway, and a stage blared pop music so loud it scared my chickens half to death. Karen stood at the center of it all, her floral dress straining at the seams, barking at a teenage volunteer who'd spilled soda on her VIP table. "Do you know who I am?" she screeched, her voice cutting through the music like a chainsaw. The kid shrank back, but I wasn't about to. I pushed through the crowd, my blood boiling. "Karen," I shouted, "what the hell are you doing on my land?" She turned, her face twisting into that condescending smirk she'd perfected over years of bullying neighbors. "Oh, Jake, don't be so dramatic," she said, waving a manicured hand. "This is for the community. Your little farm isn't doing anything useful. You should be thanking me." Thanking her for turning my grandfather's legacy into a cheap carnival. I could have punched a hole through her tacky stage right then, but I knew better. Karen thrived on chaos, twist any outburst into proof of her victimhood. No, I'd hit her where it hurt, the law. By Monday, I'd hired a lawyer, Sarah, who'd dealt with Karens before. She was sharp, no nonsense, and loved nothing more than taking down entitled bullies. "This is open and shut," she said, flipping through my property deeds. "Karen forged a permit claiming she had your consent. She's got no leg to stand on. We filed a lawsuit for trespassing, property damage, and fraud. Sarah warned me Karen would fight dirty, but I was ready. This wasn't just about my land, Anna Maria, it was about every neighbor she'd ever steamrolled. Karen didn't take the lawsuit well. She showed up at my doorstep the next day, her face redder than the tomatoes I grew. "You're suing me," she shrieked, jabbing a finger at my chest. "I'm the heart of this community. You're just a grumpy farmer who hates fun." I didn't flinch. "Get off my porch, Karen," I said calmly. "You'll see me in court." She stormed off, muttering about ungrateful peasants. But I caught the flicker of panic in her eyes. She knew she'd overstepped. The festival was set for the following weekend, and Karen, true to form, ignored the cease and desist letter Sarah sent. She was banking on her charm and HOA connections to bulldoze any consequences. So, I decided to crash her party legally. On the day of the festival, I showed up with Sarah, a sheriff's deputy, and a court order to shut it down. The scene was straight out of a bad movie, Karen on stage, microphone in hand, hyping up a crowd of confused families while food trucks churned out greasy burgers. My land was a mess, trampled grass, litter everywhere, and a porta potty leaking God knows what near my vegetable patch. "Karen," I called out, holding up the court order. The music cut off, and heads turned. Her smile faltered, but she recovered quickly, laughing into the mic. "Oh, look, it's Farmer Jake, here to ruin our fun." The crowd murmured, some booing me, but I didn't care. The deputy stepped forward, his badge glinting in the sun. "Ma'am, you're trespassing on private property," he said. "Vacate now, or you're under arrest." The crowd gasped. Karen's face went from smug to panicked in seconds. She tried to argue, claiming the land was community property and waving her fake permit like it was a royal decree. The deputy wasn't having it. He handed her the court order, and Sarah stepped up, her voice calm but cutting. "You forged documents. Karen, you've got no right to be here. Pack it up." The crowd started whispering, phones coming out to record. Karen's empire was crumbling, and everyone was watching. She tried to rally the crowd, spinning a sob story about how I was a selfish recluse sabotaging community spirit. But the locals weren't buying it anymore. They dealt with her HOA fines, her nosy inspections, her endless power trips. One woman, Mrs. Lopez, who'd been fined for planting unauthorized roses, shouted, "You don't speak for us, Karen." A few others clapped. Karen's face turned purple, but she had no choice. The deputy escorted her off the stage, and the festival shut down. Tents came down, food trucks rolled out, and my land was mine again, muddy, but mine. Court day was the real showdown. Karen showed up in a ridiculous hat, like she was auditioning for a soap opera, flanked by a lawyer who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. Sarah laid out our case: the forged permit, the property damage, the blatant disregard for my rights. I testified about my grandfather's legacy, how every inch of that land was tied to my family's history. Karen's defense was laughable. She claimed she'd misunderstood the property lines and thought she was doing me a favor by beautifying my land. The judge wasn't amused. "Mrs. Karen," he said, his voice dripping with disdain, "you don't get to rewrite property law because you think you're the queen of the HOA." The courtroom buzzed as the judge ruled in my favor. Karen was ordered to pay for damages, thousands for the cleanup and legal fees, and faced a fine for forging documents. But the real blow came when the judge banned her from holding any HOA position for 5 years. Her face crumpled like a paper bag. She'd lost her throne, and the whole town knew it. As we left the courthouse, Mrs. Lopez and a few other neighbors high-fived me. "You did what we've all wanted to," she said, grinning. But the story didn't end there. Karen, humiliated and desperate to save face, tried one last stunt. She posted a tearful video on the neighborhood's social media group, claiming she was the victim of a vindictive farmer and a corrupt legal system. It backfired spectacularly. Comments flooded in, calling her out for years of bullying. People shared stories of her petty fines, her rude emails, her insistence on controlling every blade of grass in the neighborhood. By the end of the week, she deleted her account and put her house up for sale. I didn't throw a party when she moved away, but I won't lie, it felt good. My land was healing, the grass growing back, the chickens no longer traumatized. I even hosted a small barbecue for the neighbors who'd supported me, right on the same plot Karen had tried to claim. We laughed, ate, and toasted to freedom from her reign. The victory wasn't just about the land, it was about standing up to someone who thought they could trample over everyone else's rights. Karen learned the hard way: you can't bully your way into owning what's not yours. Sometimes I think about her, probably bossing around some new neighborhood, but I doubt she'll ever pull a stunt like that again. As for me, I'm back to my quiet life, tending my fields, knowing I fought for what's mine and won. Justice isn't always loud, but it's always satisfying. The end.